Tilia? Yes. So is there anything you guys want to talk about before we go home? Ivan, yes. How about the bottom? Somewhere in the middle? Excellent. Nix? Anything? Quinn? Love? Well, first, it depends where you live. Second, it depends on your finances. Third, it depends on your parents. Fourth, it depends on the music. Fifth, it depends whether or not you... Hello, Kendra. If you have a companion, how lonely, sad, depressed you are. If you have any kids. But in general, you know who Angela Davis is? Was it Sunday? Yesterday, yeah. She was walking her dog, Seneca, and she stopped by and, we talked a little bit. I sometimes wonder how she feels about Oakland. She's been around for a while. She's almost 80 now. She's traveling everywhere. I think she's going to Paris either today or tomorrow. But, it's like you buy a new house or a new car, and after 2-3 years, it's all banged up. Oakland is like that. It may have been good at some point, but it's messy a little. And some people like messy. Some people just like messy relationships. That's okay. Just don't be around them. Anyone else? Is it? I don't know how Oakland is going to be, say, in 15 years' time. By then, you'll probably be about 40. Unfortunately, you'll probably be married or have a kid. And then you have to figure out if you want to send your kids to private school in Oakland or public. And then, knowing you, perhaps your wife will kind of do some research, look at the stats on public schools, and then you may realize, well, maybe it's not the best place to live. Maybe you guys will go, I don't know, somewhere in the Sacramento area where there is no need for private school. You can just send your kids to public school and they'll be fine. So, Avery?
What do you think about that train question? When you have a train, you can control it.
Oh, the trolley? Yeah. Why do you ask these questions? Yeah, I know. So, for those of you who may not know the story, there's a train coming by. You can't stop it. If the train was to go to the left, probably run over 5 people. If the train was to go to the right, probably run over 2 people. So will you choose the 2 or the 5? If you're very creative, you would combine them and just run over the 7.
Drift the train.
But the question, the way it's usually asked in like ridiculous philosophy classes, asked by ridiculous people, is very interesting. Because it kind of shows your bias, perhaps, the degree to which you're compassionate and all that. But I think the trick is, what if the 5 were members of your family? What if the 5 were highly attractive people, but the 2 very ugly? What if it was your husband? What if it was your kids? And all of a sudden things become complicated. What if you're black and the tracks that have 5 white people, 5 of them, versus a track that has only 2? Which one would you run over? What if it's Malcolm X versus Snoop Dogg? I mean, you can do all sorts of games. And all of a sudden, the value system comes up, your biases come up, relationships come up, intimacy comes up, all sorts of issues come up. Hello. There was an exercise we used to do in class when I was younger and didn't have much to say, not that I have anything to say now. You divide the class into various groups, and tell them, like, you're in a boat in the middle of the ocean. The boat is going to sink. You got to get rid of 1 or 2 people on this boat. So get together, figure out who you don't like and why, and get rid of them. Kill them. So yeah, there was a show on Star Trek. Do you remember, with Captain Kirk, William Shatner, and Leonard Nimoy? So Captain Kirk is in this particular universe. He's held captive. And there are 2 cellmates that he has. One is blonde, very attractive, but a bit of a bimbo. The other is brunette, not as attractive, but highly intelligent. So the alien goes to William Shatner, Captain Kirk, and says, so which one would you want to be with? And before William Shatner has a chance to say anything, the alien says, I can read minds. Even though you know that the brunette is highly intelligent, she would be a great mother to your kids, most likely you would choose the blonde, because that's how human beings are. So, anyone else with, yeah, Connor?
What was it like living in Persia at your time? Now, your time.
We always have a tendency of romanticizing the past. And I'm no different. Despite all the difficulties that the country had, despite all the poverty that existed, and because all of us have selective memories, I select only those parts that felt good to me then and now. We would walk to school, come home, and go into the streets for the next 10, 15 hours, and we'd come home, get spanked by our parents, which was okay. You would have no money, but you would go into shops and say, my last name is Sabzavari, my dad will come and pay you. I want like 5 Pepsis and 10 cupcakes. Okay. But because we were young and because we didn't really understand the struggles that older people had to go through, for us young kids, it was always fun. It's like taking your kid to Target. He doesn't know or she doesn't know that you've been slaving away for the past 15 hours and he wants a toy or, I don't know, this, what do you call it? Lego set for like $100, and they keep crying and shouting and screaming, embarrassing in public. And in the back of your head, you say to yourself, I worked about 10 hours to make $100. And this kid, wants this Lego. And it's your kid. You want to make him or her happy. Hello, Abi. So, yeah, young kids never really understand the struggles that old people have to go through. It's kind of like, we have some people in this classroom who have some age on them. They're limping along. It'd be very difficult for you to understand what it means to be 60 or 70 or 80. But you can have some imagination. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. But you should go there. Maybe in a decade or so. Anyone else?
Very essential and ignorant for that.
Yeah. They're cut from the same cloth. Anything else? Yes, Howard. I don't really know. There's a guy that you may be interested in reading his work. His name is something Manly, Manly. He's written maybe 20, 30 books out there. Most of them happen to be on the weird side. He has a book specifically about plants and animals and insects. The first commandment in the Old Testament, I don't know if you're familiar with the book or not, it's called henotheism, the worship of one God without denying the existence of other gods. That if there is any living organism out there, any living organism, they have a certain amount of intelligence. You can consider that intelligence to be God or the creation of God. So from way up here to way down here, they've been touched by something. But yeah, who cares? Anyway, Kendra?
Here's some people become reckless
When they're depressed?
Sorry.
It's okay. So there are two issues. First, the issue of recklessness, then the issue of depression. Depression is a little complicated, so let's just talk about recklessness for a moment. One of the things you will understand or you will read into when you look at the prodigal son, and that's the territory of all young people. We are all a little reckless. Reckless in the sense that when you get a little older, perhaps you value your health a little bit. You drive a bit slower on the highway, perhaps. You're a bit more cautious about this and that. So you're not as reckless. When you're young and you're governed by hope and passions and all those things, and you feel as if, yes, your neighbor will die, but you are exempt from that particular reality. So you're going to waste time, you waste money, you waste energy on all sorts of things. So recklessness is just part of who and what we are. And, you know, there is an extreme side to it, and there is, to some extent, a modest side to it. Depression is a different story in the sense that some people just have bad brain chemistry, so they're sad and depressed. All they need to do is just, you know, take some medication and hopefully things will balance out. You know, they'll be on the right path again, so to speak. From the moment you wake up, any day, to the time you go to sleep, you find yourself in continuous struggle to find some sort of meaning, direction, and purpose in life. And let's say you walk into this classroom, you think nothing's going to happen, you're just going to sit in the back and just fall asleep, or, I don't know, just daydream about things and that. And I begin to kind of push you a little bit. And then all of a sudden you get embarrassed. Okay? So that creates a very disruptive experience for you. And then you walk into the second class and you realize the same thing is happening. Then you go home and there is your mom or dad or companion, and they kind of ask you a few questions, or they want to sit and talk to you about some things, and they realize that you don't really have the capacity to listen, to understand, to act. And they kind of bad name you a little bit, and that makes you a little bit more sad. And you realize in the course of a single day, you've had 5 or 6 or 7 events where you find yourself completely incompetent. And when you find yourself incompetent, you begin to feel insignificant, irrelevant. That saddens you, your value comes down. But with a good night's sleep, you know, read a book, go to church, talk to your parents, make up with your wife or companion, things will go back to normal again. If, on the other hand, the same thing happens the next day, and the following day after that, and the following day after that, what you have now is depression, but one that is chronic. So when you talk about depression, the question is, well, none of us have answers to some of the difficulties in life, and when we try and we fail, we have no choice but to be sad, disheartened a little bit. Okay, it's not yet a stage of depression. But when you keep trying and trying and trying, what happens is all of a sudden it's like cancer. It spreads out into your system, not only inwardly, but also outwardly. And then what you have is chronic depression. You don't get reckless in depression, chronic depression. Recklessness is the result of being angry. Depression is being passive. When you're angry that, yes, I'm 45 or 50 or 60, my life is a complete mess, what will happen to me, try to figure things out, but you can't figure things out because it's too much to unpack. I mean, the day has its own troubles. You have a past that's been unresolved. It's just too much to sift through. You have no idea which door to knock on, which door to open, and what boxes to go through. And the moment you open the lid to go through a box, you realize 50 things are coming out, and it's too much. My cousin has been chronically depressed for the past maybe 20 years, and his daughter is also depressed. When we got together last night with my brother, with my family, tried to figure out what to do with this guy, the decision was for me to go there on a Saturday and a Sunday into the garage, and it's packed to the ceiling, and go through the boxes one by one. And these are boxes that have been accumulated for the past maybe 30 years. And the problem with going through his boxes is that they are filled with valuable things. Okay? And so when you try to sift through the past, you realize there are lots of things to consider. And lots of mysteries that need to be kind of looked at very closely to figure out what you want to do with them. First, it takes a long while for you to even summon up the desire to say, okay, let me figure out what's going on. Then you'll give up because it's too much. And then you realize as you get older, as you keep trying to make your life better, but you keep moving back to the same old place, you become more and more angry. Then you get reckless. You're just filled with anger. You just don't care. You know, there comes a point where you realize not even anger is giving you any solutions to your problems. And little by little, your body language begins to change, your voice begins to change, your drive begins to change, and you become a bit more passive. Then it's what they call depression. And depression is like you finding yourself in this dark hole. You try to go to church to lift yourself up. You try to talk to your friends. You try to read whatever, do whatever, to kind of bring some light into your life. But once it's chronic, it's very, very difficult. Imagine someone who has stage 4 cancer. Well, it doesn't mean that they're not going to have good days. They'll have good moments. But the truth is the cancer is always in the back of their mind. Whatever they do, wherever they go, whatever they touch, they're always going to know and feel that this is going to be temporary. If your question then is, well, how do you overcome depression? Well, it depends what kind of trauma we're talking about. It depends how long it's lived inside you. The deeper the roots, the more difficult to dig up and get rid of. I think there is also a cultural component to it. For the longest time in human history, you wouldn't get married because you want to be happy. You wouldn't get married because you're looking for your soulmate. It wouldn't work that way. You just get married because that's what people do. You get married, you have children, you have a family, and then you die. Today, on the other hand, you want your soulmate. You want to be happy. Any conflict, any disruption, any problem, that's going to be problematic. Then you have to go to Barnes and Nobles, go to the self-help book, look through the relationship section, read tons of books, seek therapy, do some pills, do some drugs, have lots of conversation. It doesn't work. I mean, these are just temporary solutions to just human problems. Relationships have always been difficult. Just find someone decent, just imagine it to be a life sentence. Sometimes, it's good, sometimes it's bad. That's the way it is. This culture doesn't like old age, doesn't like sadness, doesn't like depression, doesn't like anything that's negative. But when you look at the human emotions for the past 5,000 years, about 95, 96% have always been negative. Always. Even if you look at your own life. The amount of negative emotions that live inside you, by far, are more than the positive ones. Even if you go back in time, you only have maybe, at the most, 10 good memories. The rest are difficulties. And that's what life is. Depression is good if you can use it the right way. The best, forgive me, Connor, if you really want to kind of find some intimacy with this emotion we call depression and all the footnote emotions that it brings about, read the life of Van Gogh. Vincent, beautiful. I mean, sure, he has a negative temperament, but the sort of a fellow that he was and the sort of things that he suffered through, incredible, really. He wasn't a happy fellow. But yeah, kind of.
I was going to compare it more to that of Friedrich Nietzsche.
What Van Gogh, Nietzsche, Picasso, Jesus Christ, what they all had in common is that they had the ability to express their sadness and their struggle and their suffering. Depression becomes really bad if there is no venting mechanism inside you. You know, imagine when we got our car wash in Roseville, this is 1985, our neighbor across the street at the time, I was maybe 19, his name was Gene, and he was a mason. He was 60. We were there for about 20 years, so by the time he moved out into a nursing home, he was 80. He had this desire to buy an RV and travel the country, but his wife was a chain smoker. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't walk. He was basically paralyzed. He was held hostage. And there wasn't anything he could do. He couldn't really verbalize, communicate his difficulties. One day he went on the roof and he jumped down because that's the only language he had to express his struggles and difficulties. He was taken into a nursing home. A few days later, he died. Nietzsche, Christ, Picasso, Van Gogh, what they had was that they were very, very depressed, but they had the ability to express their depression in a way that captivates the rest of us.
You must believe that Sisyphus tapped.
No, Sisyphus is a sad fellow. Well, we'll talk about him. Let's see if there is any other question out there. Quinn? Yeah.
Why do people to avoid?
I can't.
Why do people do so many things to avoid being lonely?
Avoid being lonely? So there are two aspects to this. The first question that you need to ask is, are human beings born to be estranged? ES, strange, in the sense that, are we just born to be alone? If you examine children, I mean young kids from say 0, not zero, but let's say from the age 2 when they're able to express themselves to maybe 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, what you realize is once in a while they just get up in a bad mood. They kind of feel as if they don't want to be around you. They don't want anyone to be around them. They're kind of just laying and they look sad. They look a little bleak. And you need to ask yourself, what the hell is wrong with this kid? There is, a roof over his head. His belly is full. He has all these toys, and yet he's unhappy. Why? And the truth is, maybe, deep down, we are meant never to have a companion. Once in a while, you wake up in this mood where you find yourself completely lonely, isolated, alone. Why? Who knows? So that's the first thing. The second is sometimes, let's say you have a boyfriend and he is the very center of your universe, then he dies. Or maybe he looks at you and says, I don't want to be with you anymore. Because of the relationship you have and because that relationship gave you an anchor, validation, significance, value, all that, the moment you lose all of that, you kind of are plunged into this dark pit where no one exists but you. So this particular platform, which we call grief has always a tendency to push you into aloneness, always. So if you are able to kind of just close your eyes and imagine those moments in your life, hello, it's okay, in your life where grief hit you, Okay? Whether you went to the store and people didn't like the fact that you're white, or you went to a place, people didn't like you that you're a woman or a man or a this or a that, whatever the case may be, whatever the cause of your grief, if you examine it very closely, you realize language fails you, people fail you. You become like Noah. You're on this huge ship, and there is no one on it. You're there by yourself. Okay? And the other thing that I suppose, well, there is really no other thing. Some people enjoy being temperamentally alone. I like being in a classroom, but I have very difficulty forming intimate relationships. Some of you may even categorize me as like, I come to class and I say things and they're relatively interesting and inspiring. But when I walk into my office, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be bothered by anyone. Okay? But that takes some time. In other words, you kind of have to get to know your own temperament, your own type, if you will. And because for the longest time in your life and my life, what we want to conform. We want to be like other people. Be like group setting. That's who this type of animals that we are. When you realize that you're just this particular type, that you just enjoy being around people but not very close to them, 20, 30, 40, 50 years need to pass where you're okay with being alone. Not lonely, but alone. If you're lonely and you, again, like Van Gogh, have the ability to express yourself, then aloneness can be a source of creativity and inspiration. But for the most part, for us regular commoners, being alone and being lonely is devastating. And I think one of the reasons is we function through relationships. You look yourself in the mirror because you want to know how you look, and how other people are going to see you once you go out. When you go out on a date, you examine very closely how relevant you are to the person sitting across the table from you and looking at you. And I think there is maybe part of biological evolution that deep down, and you don't do this consciously. I think it happens unconsciously. Deep down, perhaps something inside you says, Quinn, soon you'll be old. Soon you'll be wrinkly. Soon you'll be sick. Do you really want to go to Kaiser by yourself every single day? You want to go home and be alone every single day? And the answer is no. And one of the wonderful things that is just wired into us is a sense of attraction. You go out there, you see someone, you find yourself attractive. Attracted to them, and then you gravitate towards them. One of the things that Iska was talking about before you guys came in is that he has multiple companions. And in some ways you could say, well, he has a very healthy appetite. Okay. And the other would be, well, I have 5 fridges in my garage and there is a reason. There are lots of robberies in my neighborhood. There are lots of earthquakes in my neighborhood. Famine comes forth all the time. So what I have is this fear of all of a sudden, without any notice, an earthquake comes, or famine comes, or thieves come, and all of my goods are gone. So as long as I can have something in hiding, just in case the fridge that's in the kitchen goes empty, I can go to the garage. So there is also this fear aspect that pushes us into being with other people, which is good, There is also this other part. Let's just say that you and I have been in a relationship for a long time and we met when we were like 17 or 16 or whatever. And what usually happens in relationships is that we outlive our usefulness. There was a time I used to sit and enjoy watching a movie with you. There was a time that I used to sit and you and I would have a good conversation. We would go out, hold hands and go hiking. But that time is no longer here. It's over. I look at you and I don't find much use to you or in you. you know, and in relationships, sex all of a sudden goes into the trunk of the car, not even the back seat, the trunk. It's just once in a while, conversation once in a while. Both you and I are just engaged in the politics of life, right? But all I know is that when I come home and you're not there, I don't feel good. Even though you have no use for me, I just like seeing you there, like a sofa or a table or a chair. There comes a point where, and it's women are really, really good at this. There comes a point where you say, I just don't want to be here anymore. I'm getting older. This guy sucks. I made the wrong choice. I want to figure things out and perhaps find myself a different kind of companion. And the way it usually works is from, say, the age 13 to about 18, 19, it's all about sex. Then maybe from 18 to 20, 23, 24, you want a relationship that's a bit more meaningful. You know, you want a companionship, so to speak. Then after that, you say, this is good, but I want a family. And this is like around 27, 28 perhaps. And then you say, okay, well, I have to look for a husband or something, okay? And then after that, you realize, well, yeah, you have a good husband, but you say, I want children. You realize, well, he's a good husband, but he doesn't have the proper skills to be a father. Then you're divorced, then you find another one. Now, each time you go through this transition, something about you breaks. And in breaking, something about you opens up. And now you have a different perspective. And this perspective, this newfound perspective, forces you to look for someone or something that will give you and your life a bit more meaning and value. Now, I may be a great sex partner to you, but the truth is, I can't be a stable companion. I'm here for good times, but when difficulties come, I'm no good. So you dump me. And you can only know this with experience. Okay? And then you find yourself someone who is there with you in good and bad times. The only problem is they don't want to be committed. They say, I want to be with you, but not long term. And you say, okay, well, this is good. I can kind of forget my loneliness and my pathetic life for a little bit. And you know how people are. We say, I think I have the power to change his mind. But that's never going to happen for many reasons. Men are very, very, very slow. Okay. And then as you realize that I'm a great guy, but I don't have the capacity for a healthy, long-lasting relationship, you dump me. Then you go out on dates. You're not yet there to say, so are you ready to be a father? You say, well, on your dates, you think about marriage, you know, these are the bait questions. See where the person is. And then it takes you and your companion many, many back and forths for you to realize whether or not he's ready to be a father. And men, for the most part, they're very, very difficult to convince, unless it's accidental. Okay? And then, again, each time that you have a perspective, you fall into this place of loneliness that forces reflection, observation, understanding, hopefully. But generally, we don't like to be alone. The other aspect of not being alone is the following. I mean, look, not only do you suffer from the pressures that are inbuilt, figuring out what you want to do in the day, you also have forces on the outside that frustrate you. Maybe you say, okay, can we just move on to the next question? Why does this guy keep talking about this? I'm no longer interested. Or maybe I'm not answering your question, and I keep rambling on and on and on. I keep looking at you, and you have no choice but to keep looking at me, pretending that you're interested. I mean, these are the pressures that we have to deal with on a daily basis, from this class to our job, to our companion, to our parents, right? And you realize, well, if you're alone with all the pressure that is imposed upon you by your own psyche as well as society, you need to go somewhere. You need to have a friend or a companion so you can kind of just talk to them about how your day has been. Otherwise, it's going to just build more pressure. You're going to be more lonely. Loneliness eventually will lead to depression. You don't want that. And there is nothing wrong, Quinn. There is nothing wrong with you using, manipulating, exploiting people. Just do it in a nice way. And there is a reason for that. We depend on other things to survive. You kill a cat to eat, that's what you do. You kill a cow to eat. You take my class not because you're interested in me, you just need a grade. We need utility. Find what you need, use the person for however long, and then when you realize the time is up, just walk away and just say, I'm sorry. Be smart. Use people. Yeah, Celia? No. No. I think you just need hard work in relationships. I mean, when you go to a party, do you see someone's soul? They ain't got no soul. They will never have a soul. This is not a country where you can find a soul. You find bodies, and inside bodies you find experiences. And those experiences create emotions, and those emotions create thoughts. That's what you have. People with emotions and thoughts. Just find the ones that you like. Soulmate. Don't do that.
I don't believe in it either.
Good job. You're a wise woman. No soul.
Our word is best.
Cadence.
It's inevitable that you eventually get sick of your romantic partner.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you have to. We are destined to go that direction. Can I... Do you guys mind if I... You mind? Okay. It's a very depressing way of looking at life, but someone like the Buddha, someone like Jesus, someone like Muhammad, this was their view, and I think for the most part, they're right. Did I explain enough? No, it was a set of bumper stickers. Now, cadence, right? This is not just about romantic relationships. This is about every single relationship you will ever experience under the sun. Okay? This is you. Right? You have what they call 5 senses. You have the eyes, you have the nose, you have the ears, you have the touch, and you have the taste. Okay? These 5 windows will bring in the world into you. It's what we call experience. Okay? Your eyes look out there, and what happens is something about you finds itself attracted. That's what happens. You're not going to go after an ugly guy. Unless you're just like this Christian, that you see the soul, but not the body. And you're not there yet. Nobody is. Okay? Now, attraction becomes this tiny seed. And out of this attraction is born this thing we call curiosity. Why am I attracted to him? He's like 60. I'm like 10. I shouldn't be attracted. Well, let me change this numbers. He's like 60. I'm like 20. Okay? And you want to figure out why you're curious. And there's a good amount of conflict. And let me just use you and I for an example. Okay? You're starting your life, I'm ending my life. I'm 3 times your age. And yet something about you says, I don't want to miss this class. And it's not so much the class, it's about him. Now, that is a thing of curiosity. Now, this attraction came about how? Well, I came to this class, you looked at me and said, physically attractive. Okay. So I opened my eyes and my mouth, and your ears begin to hear me. Say, he's got a nice tone of voice as well. Okay. You come to me after class and you say, can you mark me here? And I have this beautiful cologne on. Say, smells good too. So you have all these things that are just imposing their attraction upon you. And you have no idea why it's happening, but that's just the way our organism works. Okay. And then you go home and you say, you know what? I'm going to Google Amir Sabzevari. It is curiosity. It is also a tiny seed of interest has grown inside you. Okay. As your interest grows, comes this desire. Desire creates this poverty. Poverty like, I want to be in his class more. I want to talk to him more. Whenever you have a desire, it means you do not have something that you want. That's the first thing you need to understand. You're not going to chase anything that you have. You're always going to chase things that you don't have. Always. So every single desire that lives inside you means that there's a certain emptiness or poverty that you have. Now, if this desire is short-lived, like everything in life, you forget and you move on. If on the other hand, the desire persists, it turns into a thing called want. I want it. I want to see him. I want to text him. I want to email him. Now, should this desire of want continue and persist, it moves into a need. The problem with need is that you are now emotionally entangled. I want, you can always walk away. I want a car, but I have my bike, it's okay. I want to be a millionaire, but I got $10, that's fine. Okay? The moment you say, I need, it's like going to your dad saying, Dad, I need $1,000 for rent. And inside this need, there is fear. Just in case I don't get what I need, I'll be evicted. Okay? Now, if you want to satisfy a need, you need resources. If you need $1,000 for your rent, you need to call your dad. You need to call your mom. You need to call your friends. You need to go to the bank. And you go to the people who have the cash. You're not going to come to me. I don't know you. Okay? So without the resources, this will create depression. You're not going to be able to sleep at night if you don't have the rent. That's what need does. If you just had a fight with your boyfriend and you haven't resolved things and you're afraid of him walking out and you're at a stage where you need him, you're not going to be able to sleep. And when your friends call and say, let's go have a good time, you're going to say no. Now, you may smoke to numb it, to numb the pain. You may drink to numb the pain. You may go out there and fight someone to numb the pain. But you do all that because of need. Need means emotionally you are charged. Okay? Now, let's say you do have the resources. Now, remember, when you get to the place of need, you become obsessed. That's all you think about. I need him. I need the $1,000. Okay. You become like a magnifying glass. You're extremely focused. You're not easily distracted. And the more intense this becomes, the more intense your need becomes. And then you begin to look very, very closely as to where you can go, what you need to do, okay, to bring this desire to fruition, to satisfy it. So from here, where you are, to here, where the object of your desire is, okay, this is Cadence, this is John. You don't have John just yet, but you want John. Now you need John. You go on this journey, and you do all sorts of crazy things. and you become a political animal. Okay? You con, you deceive, you do all sorts of things. Eventually, John says yes. Now you guys are holding hands. You're no longer journeying towards John. You are now journeying in John. You guys now live under the same roof. You're intimate. You talk, you do this, you do that. You do all sorts of crazy things. After a while, you realize you have journeyed enough. It's like having 2 or 3 slices of Zachary's pizza. You are full. John is no longer an object of curiosity. He is no longer an object of interest. He is there. He brings you stability. He brings you comfort. And there is the need, but there is no obsession. There is no infatuation. You love him, but you're not in love with him. And what you realize is this. As you are able to touch and be around the thing that you need, you stop thinking about it often. You stop wanting it often. And you realize that the relationship is slowly becoming oxidized. And the moment it's there, you find yourself satisfied. In satisfaction, there is always going to be boredom. If you always want to walk with John today, you say, John, I just want to go on the walk all by myself. Why don't you just leave the house, leave me alone? When there is boredom, what happens once in a while, you go back in time, memory-wise, and you say, John used to bring me flowers, he no longer does. And what you want to do is you want to go back in time, bring those memories back to the surface, and then as John is out, you take a shower, you clean the house, you make some food, you light some candles, he comes in. All because you want to recreate something that's no longer there. And you can only do it a few times before you just give up. Okay? With boredom comes frustration. And this day and age, once you're hit with frustration, and then it blossoms or evolves into anger, you realize you just don't want to be around John anymore. Now you want John out completely. And this is true, not just about romantic relationships, but any relationship. I don't know if you've had Zachary's pizza or any kind of a food that you really, really like, and once in a while you just fantasize about it. When you've had enough, you just want to throw up. And that's really the difficulty that all of us encounter. There comes a point where boredom comes in, and then you have no idea what to do with it. Yeah?
You ever get over that hump?
Yeah. Next time you walk into a relationship, whether it's with food, video games, friendships, romantic ones or not, always know it's going to end. Enjoy, but know that there is going to come a time you're going to look at the person or the thing, you won't like it. But it's there. That's the only way you can overcome something. Not through creating these wild fantasies about yourself. I'm going to find myself a soulmate, and his soul is going to be this wealth of wisdom. And no matter how deep I go, I'm never going to reach the bottom. He's like a Jesus Christ. That's just a stupid way of doing business with anything. The only way you can overcome any hump worth overcoming, understanding it really, really well. There is nothing down here that's going to keep your excitement for too long. Unless you're addicted. And addiction has nothing to do with psychological need. Yeah. Jiray?
Yeah.
Jiray.
So with the desire you get what you want and being obsessed with going out of obsession with it. I like a time frame, how much control do you think you have over it? Do you think the which or whether you sort down and you're obsessed for a year, or you're still obsessed for 20 years, or you're obsessed for 30 years, or what if your obsession disappears? What can you do together and independently to control that?
A good amount of the longevity or how long your desires will last, really, for the most part, these days depends on the culture in which you live. We have a tendency of going through cell phones every 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And that's the way capitalism and the culture function. If AT&T was to create a cell phone that would last for you, say, 10 years, well, the business would go bankrupt. So what they need to do is to inspire you to be interested in a phone, then somehow kill that inspiration by giving you another piece of advertisement that now we've created a different phone that does ABCD for you. And even though your previous phone is very functional, nothing's wrong with it, you're dissatisfied. If you look at the Western culture, okay, a study was done in 2012, and this is a long time ago, I understand that. In 2012, people from the age 10 to about 19 had spent $60 billion on gadgets. 60 billion. The richest, the wealthiest of young people in human history. I mean, that's not a small number of money, you know? And so what you have is, you have an industry that creates desires, kills desires, and sells you more desires. Look at this classroom. Let's just say you're a heterosexual man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 12 options. Add to it the fact that, I mean, these 12 women, they'll give you a chance. You can date them. And because there is the element of shame is also absent from this culture, it means you can actually go out with both of them at the same time. And should any one of them become very attached to you, you're going to give them middle finger. I'm not ready for that. And you'll be fine with it. That's not the way cultures used to work. So there are lots of things to consider. Now, as far as longevity of relationships, that no one has access to it. Everybody works on a different timetable. The other thing is, if you go back to the story of the prodigal son, we have no choice but to experiment. You know, it's just that these days you have the option to experiment with too many things. In some ways it could be good, in many ways it could be bad. Yeah.
What do you think about jealousy?
Jealousy is great.
Really? You don't think it's like...
No, are you kidding? So, look, first of all, jealousy for men and women are very, very different. For men, it's mostly physical. For women, it's mostly emotional. I'm trying to kind of just black and white this. I know there are a lot of gray areas. Now, imagine you and I go out, okay? Well, when we go out, what are we doing? We're spending time, we're spending money, we're spending youth. In spending all these riches that you and I have, what does it give us? It gives us stories. We create history. Now, after we create a good amount of history together by spending a good amount of time, and add to it now that you as a woman civilize me as a man the moment we have sex. So sex has this component to it that civilizes your companion. It creates attachment, okay? And this attachment kind of holds two people hostage in the relationship. You want to walk out, but you can't. History has been made. You're emotionally intimate now, okay? Now, you and I lease an apartment. We go out. We buy groceries, we come home, we cook, we clean. I see your parents, you see mine. A good amount of me, the space that I have inside, you occupy it. A good amount of you, I occupy it. Now, because we're talking about romantic relationships, no two people love the same. Someone always loves the other more. The more you love, the more jealousy you're going to experience, the more possessiveness you're going to experience, the more fear you're going to experience. Now, let's say we go out and this guy keeps looking at you. Look at her. And you keep looking at him. And what do? He smiles at you. And what the hell do? You smile back. What, you want me to be open-minded? Oh, honey, smile some more. I'm glad that you found attraction. Yeah, I know our relationship leads to boredom. I'm glad you found someone who can inspire you. Oh, you know what? Let me help you. Why don't you go over there and take his number down? You may do that? I own you. You're like a table and a chair. You're a sofa. You and I have spent all this time together. You think I'm going to give you up easily? No. As you won't give me up easily. Unless, of course, we have an abusive relationship, you're looking for a way out, all those things aside. I'm just talking about like two people being in a relatively healthy relationship. Okay? He keeps looking at you. You don't need to flirt back. And the moment you do, of course, I'm going to be jealous. Why? Well, in relationships, companions want the attention of the other on themselves. Instead of looking at him and smiling at him, why don't you look at me and smile at me? Now, if you are really good and mature, look at him once, quickly turn the other way, then imagine him. Fantasize about him without me noticing. You can do that. But I am jealous because I'm possessive. I'm possessive because you and I have a history. And I don't want to lose that history. That history makes me who I am. And the moment I see that you're flirting with this man, I'm afraid of losing what I've created. And so, now I may not tell you that I'm jealous, but as we're driving home, you say, so Amir, how was dinner? It's okay. Why aren't you talking to me? I'm talking to you. What am I doing? I'm talking to you. Yeah, but you're so cold. Fuck you. Be quiet. Just want to listen to music. What's wrong with you? And the truth is, a whole host of things is wrong with me. You and I sitting, having food, you keep looking at this idiot. And this idiot keeps looking at you. But you're more of the idiot because you have a companion. And you have no shame in seeing your companion noticing what you're doing and you being okay with it. Now, if on the other hand, you have been raised in a very hippie-ish environment, filled with lice and all sorts of diseases, where open relationships are a thing, okay? And then the moment I express my jealousy to you, you say, well, that doesn't make any sense. First of all, no one can possess another human being. Those days are gone. Second, you're free to feel whatever. I'm not going to babysit you. You're going to push it back into my face and you're going to make me feel like an infant. So yeah, jealousy is good. The more you have it, the more prosperous your relationship. There are always going to be positives, negatives. I'm just giving you the skeletons. You're jealous because you care. Yeah.
For jealousy specifically, when you're like living lives like I am, polyamory, a lot of people will assume that we don't have to deal with jealousy because how could we? We have multiple partners, we share our lives with several people, and in reality, really, we just have to deal with jealousy more and learn how to handle it better. And you said it in your speech that jealousy tends to come from fear. It comes from the fear that you're going to lose the person that you've committed to, that you can't trust them because they might leave you for somebody else. And in my experience, having to learn how to cope with jealousy, it's never something that's going to go away. But you can find ways to have faith in your partner, communicate with them. When my girlfriend spends time with her husband, I'm happy. When my other girlfriend decides she's meeting somebody at a bar, I encourage it. And I enjoy letting them have their fun because I know I can do the same. And at the end of the day, it doesn't threaten whether we are going to be together. We will still go on our dates. I will still live with one of them. And there is always the risk that things go bad, but that happens in monogamous relationships anyways. So it is a bad thing. Sometimes it's good for those who want to stay in a monogamous relationship. But it's really much like you said about getting used to when a relationship kind of bores you. It's more about knowing it's going to happen or you're going to feel those things and learning how to accept it and talk about it, deal with it.
You have to forgive me because polyamory is not part of my culture or my thinking, so that's my disability.
That's kind of why I said it.
Yeah.
Don't think any others.
Yeah, it's no good, but that's just the way you work, so that's fine. Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah.
You don't feel you need to be jealous, they can do whatever they want. Why did you say you feel jealous?
So we don't need to be, but it's natural, sure, and most people do, and we have to work through it.
What is there to feel jealous of?
Because fear is a natural thing that all animals have. And
What do you fear?
same thing.
Well,
I can fear that I'm going to lose my partner, but I know I'm not going to. I can fear that I'm going to fail a class, so I know I'm not going to fail. I can fear that I'm going to get hit by a car when I'm probably not. I can fear going out in public knowing the chances of getting attacked are low. I can fear many things that aren't necessarily going to happen because it's a natural fear thing.
I agree with that. But when you're certain it's not going to happen, I feel like that fear turns into a bit of
So when I say I'm certain it's not going to happen, I'm as certain as any monogamous person is that their husband or their wife isn't going to leave them. They can be quite certain and then be shocked when they found out they were cheated. I'm not saying being polyamorous. Being polyamorous makes you immune to, your relationships falling apart because they leave you or something. I've seen it happen. But because you deal with jealousy more often, you learn how to handle it more readily. If we don't, we fall apart.
let me, if I may, there is a guy named Sigmund Freud. He doesn't really talk so much about polyamory, and he talks a lot about sex, but all that aside, there is a part to us that we don't really have access to it. I know that you're trying to worm kind of answers from him, but that's not going to happen because him, like many of us in this classroom, we have blind spots, things we can't see and we won't be able to see. Sometimes you can ask me, Amir, why are you jealous? And though I may have given her all that stuff about possession and all that, the truth is, maybe I never had a mom, maybe I never had a dad, maybe I never really had a stable foundation. And for the first time, Avery has brought some stability to my life. And it's not so much about Avery, it's about the stability I never had, and I don't want to lose that. Okay? But in casual conversation, the one that we're having right now, you're not going to extract that from me, because that's too deep for me. That's in the dungeon. I haven't really visited that particular area in my life. I don't even know if it exists. Okay, so as we try to talk about jealousy and all those things, there are lots of things to consider: the social aspect of it, the political aspect of it, the biological aspect of it, the psychic aspect of it, and it's just too much. I think the best thing that perhaps you could just walk away from is jealousy is natural, fear is natural, and we do a lot of different things because we don't want to experience a particular fear. And we are just walking contradictions. So, Tilia.
Okay, so I wanted to know, is jealousy a form of control? Can you use that as control?
There is nothing wrong with control. Look, imagine that you and I are a couple and we have children. There is nothing wrong with you injecting fear into me, threatening me. Not only to protect the life that we've built together, but also for the sake of our kids' psychology. Why wouldn't you want to control me if you know that I'm a little wild? Because it's no longer really just about you and me, it's also about the kids. And for those of you in this class who have come from a background that's been broken and you have suffered from it, you don't want the same thing for your kids, to happen, and you don't want them to go through the same stuff. And so out of that particular concern, and that experience has given you a good amount of insight and wisdom, I walk into your life and you realize that, yes, I'm a relatively decent man, but I got all these different issues. Yeah, you threaten me, and rightly so. Why not? Human beings are like dogs. You need to train them, control them, so they could be a happy dog. Anyone else? Yeah, Connor.
Seems like our relationships are just romantic ones are just not worth it. Friendship is where human nature is sweetest, like I said.
If you can find such a friendship, yes. Yeah. Romantic kinds are nice, once in a while. It's not bad to grow wings and fly up and then come down, crash.
Colin, are you aromantic?
What?
Are you aromantic?
No, I just follow philosophy.
How many people philosophy and still love you? Are you aromantic?
Yes.
That's just a curiosity. Many.
In a relationship,
Allahu Akbar.
that's what it is. You have, you're missing the fact of actually being in a relationship. You are able to say,
Are you single? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you available? You want to give them an experience? Okay, let's move on. Anyone else? Is it time?
Almost.
Well, is there anyone with a quickie? Q Love? Okay. Well, I'm glad that you've realized that there are no solutions. Yeah, Mark.
I'm in hospital there, so what kind of coffee do you like?
Nothing. Thank you. Well, have a nice day. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you. Thank you.